What were you looking for, not so much out of this particular report, but what are you looking for out of the company overall with regards to their strategy, with regards to earnings or the lack thereof?
Sure, Romaine, thanks for having me back on.
Mhm.
So like you said, they lost money on the bottom line in the quarter, but I think we should look at what the company's told us is important. The company last quarter told us that they think net sales is the most important metric if we want to think about their transformation into a more tech-oriented, e-commerce-oriented company. And they did beat on net sales by about 9%. So nice to see that versus analyst consensus on the sales front. They've continued to broaden their SKU count. They've added since mid-year about 7,500 SKUs from what we've been tracking at GMEDD. So it's nice to see them broadening that, selling more TVs, and the PR they cited, Samsung, LG, some of the TV sellers. So we're continuing to see them broaden their SKUs and also grow the top line. But like you said, it's not flowing through to the bottom line just yet.
Rod, it's interesting. You mentioned some of the expansion with customers like Samsung, LG, Vizio, among others. And I note that that's the second bullet point in the press release, but there are only 6 bullet points. And I am curious when investors might just get a strategy that feels a little bit more fleshed out. Is that what you want to see, or are you okay with what you're getting on these conference calls?
Look, Taylor, that's a great question. I think that's a very valid concern that some folks in old Wall Street have continued to raise, that this new management team, and let's remember that since January of 21, the entire board of directors has been refreshed, almost the entire C-suite. We at GMEDD have captured over 300 incremental hires that they've hired from VP levels on down, including folks oriented on blockchain. So they've been bringing in new blood to flesh out that strategy. They have been very coy. Like you said, they're not telling us precisely what they're doing. We've been trying to read the breadcrumbs and tea leaves as best we can as an interested group of retail investors who've been monitoring the developments. For example, when it comes to blockchain, earlier this year in May, they launched NFT.GameStop.com, which kind of laid out a little bit of the tea leaves of, is this something? What is this going to be? Power to the creators, power to the gamers, players, and power to collectors. So it seems like there's some sort of an NFT-oriented platform. Former head of business at Loopring, now head of blockchain at GameStop, Matt Feinstone. So it does seem like there's something coming. But to your point, it's been pretty hazy for folks looking at a 10,000 foot level.
It's not just old Wall Street. New Wall Street, if you will, wants them to also be changing into that digital strategy much faster. And do you have faith that they could do that in a faster amount of time frame?
So time frame's always a great question, right? We want it to happen, this sort of transformation overnight. Fortunately for the company, with, as you all alluded to, the retail fervor that happened earlier this year, they were able to raise a significant amount of capital. The balance sheet looks night and day from a year ago at this time in terms of $1.4 billion in cash on the books, no net debt, and they've continued to reduce their operating lease liabilities as they continue to de-densify their store base. So from does this need to happen overnight? It doesn't. They have leeway, they have a balance sheet, they have liquidity. I think that folks in Wall Street and just retail investors in general, your memers, right? You see people want these things to happen overnight. And I don't think you can recreate a company that had been in the analog era for its existence into a pure digital player or digital first player overnight. But again, with the amount of hires, I mean, to me, that's what tells me when I see folks leaving Apple, Amazon, Chewy to go join GameStop, whatever they're hearing is compelling.